Hello, fellow mortals. Welcome back to the Forge, home of the no tank top guarantee. Not going to wear that ever. Let's get into it. We've got plenty of really good lots past 5 months or so. We're going to start with software this time. Let's get into it. So I had a really hard time finding a few of these games, such as Dragon Marked for Death. It is made by Inti Creates. Inti Creates. So the same guys who do the Mega Man Zero series. What else do they do? They do the new Blaster Master Zero. It's pretty cool. It's got RPG mechanics. It's like it's an action platformer. It's got 4 or 5 different characters. I think it's included DLC on here. Actually comes with a little manual. Awesome. So it's actually pretty fun. Obviously didn't get very far because I just wanted to try it. I'll get to it one day. Next up is Am Satsuna. I'm going to hold it right here. Less glare. I got the English cover variant, which is preferred, obviously, because I am a gaijin. And, played a little bit of it. It's got a little insert. No reversal cover. Not a big deal. It's got a really cool combat system. It's got a great soundtrack. It looks really good. It's got a really weird thing. I'm not sure if I captured it in the footage or not, but there's weird color when you're walking around in the overworld. There's a weird color banding that shows up, and I could not figure out why it was there. It wasn't anything to do with my hardware. Next up is Pokemon Snap, the new one released for the Switch. I'm waiting for this for a long time. Realistically, it should have came out a long time ago. But I'm actually pretty pleased with it. And capturing the footage for this, they added new areas, new sections of the islands, and day and night cycle, and a bunch of new Pokemon, and it gives it a lot more replay value. So I actually had a fun, going through a bunch of levels again. So I'm usually a pretty big sucker for Square Enix games and Mana series I'm getting into. This is still sealed. I'm not planning on playing this anytime soon. Plus, capturing DS footage is going to be a pain in the butt. But, it was like under $20 sealed. So, pulled the trigger on that. Next up is Castlevania 2. I listed as 20. I got it down to 15 from the flea market. It was like 3 times in a row I went to the flea market and I didn't get anything. So, I just didn't want another wasted trip. So, I picked up Castlevania 2. I don't have any means to capture my NES yet, so I'm just going to probably do footage from my the digital version on the Xbox. Right. Next is Pokemon typing. So when it comes to collecting any games, I only get games that I plan on actually playing. With the exception of Pokemon games, I don't really have any interest for the offshoot games like the Mystery Dungeon, or the puzzle games, or the Pokemon Dash, or in this case, typing. But still, I want to get at least every iteration of Pokemon. My holy grail is the Pokemon box for the Gamecube, but I'm pretty confident I will never, ever get that, because when it was at like $400, I was like, no, that's way too much. And now it's like over $2,000. Not going to happen. The reason why that's so rare is because it was never released in retail stores. It was only through the Nintendo store in New York. It's the only way you could get it, as far as I know, and that's the English version. I think there's a PAL version, and there's definitely a Japanese version. But of course, I want the... Next, we have Habroxia 2. As far as I know, this is the last Vita game that's been published. It's from Play Asia, East Asia Soft, and it's got a little number certificate there. And it's got a little sticker. But yeah. Habroxia 2, it's a side-scroller shooting 'em up. It's actually got some twin-stick shooter mechanics, so you play on both sticks, and the right stick actually shoots the direction of your shots, and then your triggers will shoot your specials left and right. And then you have your bombs, you have some special abilities like your boost, and you have like orbiting shields that can that follow you around. But it's pretty fun, and they just added some new free DLC for pretty much every console that has come out for. So New Game Plus, and it's really fun. I really recommend it, and it's on sale right now on PlayStation and Vita right now. I think or that maybe have just the first Turbografx. Yeah, either way. Either of them are good play. Next is Raiden 5. So I'm trying to get into the Raiden series. This one does come with a soundtrack, which is nice. Thing is, Raiden is really not clicking for me. Big problem I have with it is that the sprite, your little ship sprite, it changes size depending on the part of the stage you're on. And just, it's not clicking with me yet. It's very flashy, and it's got these intermediate sections where you have to, it's like in Donkey Kong when you're trying to collect a bunch of bananas, like an interlude little side quest, and it just doesn't fit this genre very well. Next up is Summon Night 6. So most of these games we have not gotten in the West. This one is a tactical RPG. Some of the spin-offs are action RPGs, like for the Japanese DS versions, but I'm actually when I just played the first mission, and I'm very pleasantly surprised at the game's visuals and sound design and the gameplay. And look at the size of that manual. That is the biggest manual in a PS4 game easily. So I am definitely going to demolish Summon Night 6. Summon Night 5 is on the PSP, in case you were wondering. Next is Tokyo Xanadu Ex. This isn't too uncommon. It's just I was waiting for a good price. Found it for about $35. I've really, anything Falcom these days, I am definitely devouring. I want to give my full attention to this. So I didn't get any gameplay footage because I don't want to just see a bit of the story and then just duck out. I want to dedicate my time to this game. But yeah, it's an action RPG from Falcom. Really can't go wrong with that. Next I found Dark Rose Valkyrie. I forgot to get gameplay footage for this, but yeah, it's from Idea Factory. They kind of have their own stigma. It's got a reversible cover there. Idea Factory, they're kind of on the loot side. I don't think they're as bad as Compile. Oh, never mind. It's Idea Factory and Compile combined in this one. So, yeah, no idea. I know it's JRPG, turn-based. I'm going to give it a go one of these days. This is acclaimed to be one of the greatest shoot-'em-ups ever created, and I really don't disagree. This is like almost cracked my top 10 games of all time. Not just shoot-'em-ups, games of all time. This is absolutely fantastic. I did have to import it, like a lot of these games, and oh my goodness, it's such a good game. The controls are absolutely fantastic. Gameplay is simple. You know, you have your focus shot. You have two different ships. You have your focus shot and you have a tracking shot. So you lock it on an enemy and you can move around. So say you have a boss in the middle here, and you can lock your shot and you can go all the way around him and still have your lock shot hit him. And it's just absolutely fantastic. It's brutally hard, but I'm really determined to really get good at this game because it's definitely worth your time. Yeah, you can clear it in 35 minutes, but I've cleared it 30, 40 times already, and I'm trying to get the 1cc clear of arcade mode, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. All right, next up, Akai Katana. It's the same developer as Ketsui. It's Cave. It's another shoot 'em up. This one was it was one of their later releases. I used to always see this at the flea market, but I just always dismissed it. I thought it was like a weird Japanese rhythm game. Just looking at the back cover, I never really knew what any of this meant. But yeah, now that I know what Cave is in their entire library, anything I find Cave, I'm going to gobble up. This is horizontal. Most of Cave's shoot-'em-ups are vertical. This one is horizontal, and it hasn't quite clicked for me yet. I don't really understand the mechanics, but I've only gone through it a few times. It's probably going to take a lot more than that to really dive into it. Next is a BlazBlue for the 360. I really want to try and get into fighters, and I want to get all the fighters I can before they start skyrocketing in price. What I tend to notice is that games that go up in value are always RPGs at the top, and below that are shoot-'em-ups, and then below that are fighters, and then platformers below that, first-person shooter, third-person action adventure, platformers below that, and then everything else is kind of really low. So this was $8. Definitely gonna grab that. And yeah, I am terrible at this game. I have no idea what I'm doing. Same with this one. I just pretty much picked this up to test my Brook Retro board on my original Xbox 360, and this is, I didn't have any fighters, so I wanted to grab this. All right, next, another cave title, Dodonpachi. I did order this from the UK. This is the PAL version, and it is region free, so you can play this on any Xbox 360. That's a big problem with all these really good shoot 'em ups on 360s. Most of them, about half of them are region locked. But this is one of the games that really, really cemented my love for this genre. I found it on the PC, the Steam version, and just fell in love with it. And I did have to pay way over what I would usually. My rule is I never pay over retail, and I probably did double retail for this guy. But it's definitely worth it. No, vertical shoot 'em up, awesome. So much fun to play. Next, in one of my big lots that I found, one of my favorite fighters, Soul Calibur for the Dreamcast. It's my favorite traditional fighter franchise, and first time I played this was at an EB Games kiosk. It had a Dreamcast set up there. It was most likely 99. I tried it there, and I played Nightmare and Voldo is still my favorite character. I usually don't go for the weird, obscure characters, but Voldo his moveset just really clicked with me. Yeah, Nightmare's great, and I'm good with Taki and Tira, but Voldo is your opponent just never sees his moves coming, and it's so much fun to see their reactions to his like. You know, he fights backwards most of the time for one thing, and he'll do like butt checks going backwards, and it's so much fun. Next up. All right, so I got a pretty good Genesis lot by itself, as well as other Genesis accessories and games with a different lot. So first is a Lion King for the Sega Genesis. I knew nothing about it. I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how fun it is when I was gathering the footage. And then next up is Power Rangers. I was hoping it was a different Power Ranger. This is a 2D fighter, and it's still pretty fun. I enjoyed playing it just earlier, but I was hoping it was the beat 'em up version that I used to play with my cousin way back in the day. He had a Genesis. Next up is Maximum Carnage for the Genesis. This is one of the best looking Genesis games you'll ever find. It's got a really cool soundtrack. You start out as Spider-Man. I haven't gotten very far in it. It's pretty challenging after the second stage. I think I'm stuck too. But it's a really, really good combat and really fun. Unfortunately, in the Genesis lot, I got a couple reproductions. I suspected they were, but I didn't really care because it was a pretty sweet deal. It was $40, and it included all these games, a 32X, and a Genesis Fight Stick. So Toy Story, haven't tried. Doesn't work on my console yet. My console's been pretty finicky, so I didn't even bother really trying to get it to work. Batman and Robin works pretty well. It's really, really fun, and it's got the best soundtrack out of this lot so far. But it's really hard. I cannot make it past the first stage. It is stupid hard. And next up, we got in box Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. I don't remember these games being that hard, but as you can see from the footage, I set it on easy, and I'm playing my main character Kung Lao, and I'm getting absolutely demolished by Sub-Zero. I didn't bother going with 3. I'll save it for another time, but man, I gotta really practice at these Mortal Kombat games because, oof, that's embarrassing. So I already had Sonic the Hedgehog, but this is the not for resale version, which matches my Genesis's box. The one that I had before was not the not for resale box, but it was the Canadian box version. So the Canadian box version is obviously going to be a lot more common here in Canada, And I only really want one right now, so I'm just going to get the not for resale Sonic. And then we have Revolution X. So it's I couldn't get this to work on my console because again it was being finicky. So I'll have to give that again. It's like a gallery shooter. So I'm not sure if the light gun will work for it or not. That would be cool for another time. Next up, so with that 32X lot, the only 32X games was Star Wars. And I wasn't able to test it or get some footage because I don't have another power cable for the 32X. You need to have both cables, power cables, at the same time, unfortunately. Then we got a couple Sega Master Systems, Dead Angle and Action Fighter. Dead Angle is a gallery shooter with your light gun. And Action Fighter is a little bike racer. They actually look really good. And then we have Spyro 2 Season Up Flame for the Game Boy Advance. And Zelda Link's Awakening, not the DX, that would be cool. And then with one of the lots that came with my Turbografx, we got Keith Courage. This is the only physical game I've ever actually touched for the Turbografx. More on that later. But Keith Courage is it's a fun little platformer. It was one of the lots. It came with quite a few things that I already had, but I wanted the Turbografx, the Sega Master System, some of the games with the Atari, and then I just refurbished and sold the rest. And a really cool lot for the Dreamcast was all these demo discs. So the Dreamcast had its own magazine. Did it come out quarterly or every month, something like that? But all these demo discs, and on one of these days I got a lot to do, but I like to catalog all of them, just get gameplay from each of the demo discs. That'll be pretty sweet. So it's I actually really like demo discs. I regret getting rid of any of the ones I did have. So we did get the Atari 2600 Vader and the Atari 2600 Junior. My power supply was broken, so I couldn't get either to power on. It's possible both of the Ataris are broken, but I'm not really in any rush to play Atari. But we got a decent stack of games. Only one I've ever heard of is Dig Dug and Air Raiders. I have no idea the rest of them are any good. None of them are really worth anything, but definitely something I want to try one day. And some people are starting to do RGB mods for the Atari, which is really cool. We got the Sega Master System. It did not come with a controller, unfortunately. It came with the Sega Master Zapper, power cable, AV cable, and I got an RGB SCART cable for it, so it's looking awesome through the modern TV. And nice thing is that you can use your Genesis controller on the Master System, so you're not really losing out. Actually, it's better because your start button is actually on the controller and not on the console itself. I like the look of the console so much. Biggest reason I went for that one big lot. I had to spend a lot of money on that lot, but I recouped all my money back, so I pretty much got all the stuff I kept for free. But of course, that's not taken into my time. Is the Turbografx 16. So probably up until a year ago, I had no idea what this console was. I had no idea what a Sega Master System was. I thought that the Sega Saturn was the Japanese version of the Dreamcast. I literally thought this, but I've gone down the retro gaming rabbit hole because I never grew up with it. And yeah, so we got the Turbografx 16. It does have the back, but I have a new device for it, so I don't need to have that backing on it anymore. So I gave it a good refurbish. It came with a controller. Did not come with its original power supply, but that's okay because you can use the Genesis. I also got a SCART cable for it, and it is looking awesome. So I am very happy that I found the Turbografx 16. We have the Atari Junior. I don't really like the look of this. It looks like a cheap, like mini console. And then we have the Atari Vader. I think this one looks a lot cooler than the wood-paneled one. So I'm just gonna get a good power supply so I can test these out. And I don't plan on playing this anytime soon, but it's just a really, really cool piece of history. And I'll try a bunch of the good games, and I'll see if I want to keep this, because like, yeah, it's really cool to look at, a piece of history, but like my guests are never going to want to play it. My girls are probably never going to want to play it. It's the best way I can think of is like I love vinyl records. But if you go prior to that, you have those wax cylinders that, yeah, it's a really cool piece of history, and that's where the technology spurred from, much like the Atari, spurred video games, and then you have your NES. I compare the NES and Sega Master System to vinyl records, and that's what's, but like just before that, it's just a little too old. That's just my opinion. I'm sure there's people that love the Atari out there, and I'm sure people love listening to music on those old wax cylinders. I don't see how, because they're so, like, they're all eroded away, and you can hardly even hear anything from them. Then we got this 32X. Apparently you can get a slightly better color spectrum, and you get access to some games. There aren't really any RPGs on there, so I'm stoked I got this for such a good price, but like I'm never gonna go out of my way to spend retail on a 32X like I would considering for a Sega CD, that kind of thing. But yeah, this pops right into your Genesis, either Model 1 or 2, and then you put your 32X cartridge in there. And then you gotta have a set of AV cables that go back in the console. You gotta have a separate power supply, so it's a whole thing. If you have this and the Sega CD, you actually need 3 different power supplies. And Genesis actually made their own Sega branded power strip because they knew that you were going to need it. All right, so next up, there were a couple controllers. Only one of note is the Dreamcast one, and it came with along with a couple of VMUs, it came with a rumble pack, which I've never seen a rumble pack for a Dreamcast controller before. So I thought that was really cool and worthy of note. Next up for the Sega Genesis is the 6-button Genesis controller. Unfortunately, it had a bit of rust over here. Not a big deal. I did have to open it up and clean it out because the stick wasn't quite working right and a couple of the buttons weren't responding very well. But that's to be expected with like this one. This stick isn't like a traditional arcade stick. It's just like a D-pad on the inside with a stick coming out of the middle. It's all membranes touching onto the circuit board. So as long as you just like take all the membranes out, clean them out, and then a little swab on the board, everything is gonna work fine after that most of the time. So yeah, Sega Genesis controller. I'm not going to use this over my other one, but it's a pretty cool little fight stick. I enjoy it. So I found a really big broken console and controller haul. I paid $80 in total, and I probably got 40 controllers, 30 consoles, and I've refurbished probably 80% of them all and sold them all off. So I've definitely recouped everything. And one thing that was in the lot was a NES Advantage Stick. So it's really cool. It's got turbo on there for NES. I thought that was pretty cool. And again, I'm not going to use this over my actual arcade sticks, but it's such a little fun accessory, especially for, I'd rather my girls play this over my fancy arcade sticks, to be honest. All right, so let's talk video quality. The past year, I've gone down the rabbit hole of retro gaming and video quality. So just hooking up your old consoles to modern TVs like my LG OLED here, it works, but it's terrible. It'll bring up a picture. Your TV doesn't really know what to do with the 240p analog signal, so you definitely need something like an upscaler. I have the OSSC. I strongly recommend that. The RetroTink 5X has come out, and I've heard nothing but good things about that too. I think they're pretty on par. RetroTink probably has a few more quality of life features to it. So if you're going that route, I think it's about $100 more expensive at this point. So, and you're probably going to find the OSSC used from people who went to the RetroTink. So OSSC is still a good way to go. But I've been trying to get the best video quality possible for all of my consoles. And I think, So everything but my N64 and my NES. I've achieved that. And because I haven't done any hard mods yet. This is all soft mod or just new cables. So, for example, this is the one for my Turbografx 16. This is an RGB SCART cable. It's a European standard, and it gives you the best possible video quality for your retro consoles. This is what goes into the OSSC. I also have a couple more here. So this one is for my PS1, and this one is for my Sega Master System. This one will work for the Genesis Model 1. It just won't give you the proper sound. It'll just give you mono sound. So I have RGB SCART to all my consoles that accept it. And the thing with the Turbografx 16, one of its downfalls is that it only came stock with RF. That's the only cable you could get. Later on, they made attachments that attach to the back here to give you, AVI quality. But the nice thing is that baked in here is RGB. And so with boards like this, they plug into here, and you can get RGB, you can get S-Video, and you can get AVI. You'd think you can get component, but these are just like RGB breakout cables for those PVM monitors. Only the issue with this is that it doesn't really sit flat, so you have to prop it up, because if it just goes slightly off, you're going to lose a bunch of your color right away. So I do have a better device than this, so I just wanted to get some testing with this first before I see if anybody wants to buy it. So all these SCART cables, by the way, are from Insurrection Industries. It's an American company. There are a couple other reputable companies. One out of the UK. They just didn't have the ones I needed, so I didn't want to buy a bulk order of just like one or two cables. When I buy an order, I want to get them all at the same time. So this is out of America, and they just got in stock an HDMI adapter for the GameCube. It's called the Carby, and this is there's two big ones on the market. I think one's called the Eon. It's rather expensive. I don't think it's worth it. This was $90 Canadian. So I pulled the trigger on that, and yeah, it gives you 480p out. I think you can double it to 960. I don't remember. Actually, I haven't played my GameCube in a few months. But yeah, this is definitely the way to go, especially if you have the Game Boy player attachment. This is definitely the way to go. So as per my last video, I've gone nuts for fight sticks. I found this Quanbicarbon, Quanbicarbon for $30, and I put some other parts into it, but it's mostly stock. I put a new circuit board in it called the Brook Retro Board. It allows you to use it for almost all the retro consoles, except for the Genesis, Sega Master System, and Atari, because the pinouts on those just isn't compatible for some reason. I don't know what's going on in there. It also is not compatible with the N64 because there wasn't really any point in it. There's next to no 2D fighters. There are no shoot 'em ups that I know of, and hardly any 2D platformers. So there wasn't really any point in making an arcade digital stick for the N64, but it works for everything else. And thing is, what you have to do is you have to have specific cables for each of those consoles. And I didn't want to make a 6 to 10 foot cable for every console. So what I did is I made one 10-foot cable to rule them all, and then I made an adapter for every console. So this is for the Turbografx, and this is a 8-pin DIN, by the way. I'm pretty proud of all this wiring I've done. I homemade all these cables. I've got a whole bag of them here. Only one I haven't made yet is the Super Nintendo because I couldn't find the stock cable for it. And then you have your just your plain USB. You have your Sega Saturn there. You have your Dreamcast. Original Xbox. That was a pain because the pinout readings online were incorrect, so I kept on getting it wrong. You have the original NES, PS1, PS2, and the GameCube. I might have to redo this one because it was one of the first ones I did, and I kind of did a bad job on it. Okay, last up, I am extremely proud of how this turned out. So you can get from FocusTac.com, you can get some acrylic do-it-yourself fight stick cases. This is what I did. I did all the custom artwork. I did cut all the buttons, did all custom buttons. I even did custom work for the back of it. And if you're familiar with the Trail series, you'll recognize this. So that's the Brook Universal Fight Board. That works for all the modern consoles except for the PS5 and Series X, but they are working on add-ons for that. So I did all the wiring. This is a Korean style stick, and I love how this turned out. And I modified all of my ports to be the 8-pin DIN, so that's one cable, compatible wherever I put it. All right, I think that is it for today. That was a long one, 35 minutes now before I edit. I think next quarter is going to be a bit more tame. But yeah, I really enjoy doing these. It keeps me busy, keeps me focused. All right, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you in the next one.